All this morning to our Realtor roundtable, if you will. I'm here with Robert Wright, Scott Navatrell, and Jess Watts. Jess works for MIS, Scott Environmental Services, Bob Environmental Services, and Environmental Services. My name is Kelly, by the way, as well. So unless there's something that's really pressing on your mind, I'm going to turn it right over to Jess so we can get this, get it started. Thanks.
What we decided to do, we have a list of your questions and you have the answers kind of there in front of you. A lot of the information that you're asking, what you're looking for, can be found in the mapping resources that we have available to the public. So what we thought was we'll just kind of take you through that as a map demo type of thing, knowing that most of you are probably in the map on a regular basis already and fairly familiar with it. But we'll hit some of the highlights, maybe some things that you haven't found, answer some questions as we go, and then if we kind of get into some in-depth conversations or something to that effect, we can kind of hold that off to the end of the demonstration and kind of try to tackle those at that time, just for the sake of trying to kind of keep on a time frame with things. So I'm going to start you guys out on the home page here. And the easiest way to get there, Google Cass County, Minnesota. That will avoid finding North Dakota's site. And on the front page, you're going to have the green links. Permits, it's going to take you to Environmental Services permitting page with an online payment option. Ordinances is going to bring you to the land use ordinances, buffer ordinances, and then going back to the home page, you can get to the mapping by clicking on the mapping button. Those three resources right there from the home page are probably going to get you to most of the information you're going to want to get from our website. So going through the maps page, we have the interactive map, which is the primary map resource. There are links to individual searches that you can get to for property sales. These can also be accessed through the map. But these are more intended for if you're just looking, you know the parcel number, you're looking for something specific, you're not finding it in the map, because keep in mind that when you're looking in the map, you're looking at something that's parcel-based, so you may not necessarily be seeing the parcel history if it was split and combined and the parcel number changed. So those can be valuable searches for you there. This would be an individual parcel report. And then the tax statements, which are going to take you to the auditor's page, where you can print that out. So, new to the website, there is a mobile mapping application. This is fairly new. This is designed, you've probably seen on some of the other county websites. We're using it as a mobile mapping application rather than developing smaller maps. It has pretty much all the functionality that the link has. It's just more designed to work on your phone, iPad, when you're out in the field. A couple nice features, you can search by parcel number or address right here. So if I put in Minnesota Avenue West, it's going to bring up all the parcel numbers associated there. You can see you can get to all the same hot links that are in the link right there, get all that information. The map disappears or the image disappears at a certain scale, so if you don't get the image, just zoom out. And it is there. It's just you have to zoom out a little bit further. And if you show the results, you can kind of sort through the different items on the list until you find the one that you're interested in. But it's zooming to that parcel scale, so that's why it zooms in a little bit closer like that. Also in the map, you've got your search features, you've got your layers here. Same as in the other map, you've got some drawing tools, measuring tools. This is a routing tool that is only available in the mobile map. This will allow you to route. It's using Cass County addresses. It's not using a Google Maps search or anything. It's not going to find Walker or Reamer. It's looking for addresses that are valid addresses in our map. So if I put in Minnesota Avenue West, and you want to go to, or on Washburn Avenue here, it's going to give you directions and it's going to give you a map to that property. So that can be very useful if you're working in the real estate, you're out there and you know your property addresses that you're coming to and from. So let's see, we'll go back to our maps page. Any questions on the mobile map before I Kind of go from there. Okay. Looking down through it, you've got dry line maps, you've got your forestry web map. On the side, these links will take you down the page as well. You'll notice that this is a new one here. This is a technical support page. These are step-by-step documents on how to do some of the commonly asked questions. For instance, you want to do a mailing around a lake. That's the one most of the realtors ask us for. Here is step-by-step with screenshots through the process. Give it a minute to open. And when I get into the map, I'll show you the best way to get the lake number, because, for instance, there's multiple long lakes. Best way to do the search is with the lake number. When you zoom in close enough to the lake to a parcel level, that lake number is going to display underneath the lake name. So you can find it that way. You can find it by identifying on the parcels. But using the lake number is the best way to do that. So that and a few others are in here. Scan surveys using the pictometry tool, buffering roads. These are all step-by-step, finding your permits and compliance inspections. If you see something here, you're going through it, that's the best way to do it. Some quick links here also to plats and recorded documents that are not available in the map. These are recreations of those recorded documents, but the actual documents can be obtained from the recorder's office or iDoc Market. If you go to iDoc Market, guys have probably already all been here, but when you go and get started and you find your county, once you go in to subscribe, there is a quick pass if you know what document you're looking for versus a yearly pass. So you guys are probably already familiar with that page. So coming back to the maps page, also down in that technical support page, tax statements from the auditor's office or through the same link that I showed you before. Assessment field cards are not in the web mapping at this time. That is something that's being considered for development, but you can request them online here by sending an email directly to the assessor's office at that link. So there's some quick links on that page for you so that you can quickly get to the things that you're looking for. Coming down, the plat book. Plat books are no longer being created by the county. We have a module within the map that I'll demonstrate for you that allows you to create a plat book on demand. This is the last time a plat book was created, that's the 2012. We are currently creating some township maps, and this is basically a replica of a plat book that we create in-house. And I update this twice a year typically, so it is much more current than a plat book would typically be, which technically as soon as you print them, they're out of date. So this allows us to keep a little bit more current. You can access it online, view it online, print out the pages that you're interested in. Basically, it's the same as a plat book page. It does have an index at the end, which is any parcels under 5 acres. Anything over 5 acres should have a label of some type in the map. That's why only the ones under 5 acres are listed in the index. So that is available there. County-wide maps, these are just resources, different districts throughout the county, fire departments, ambulance districts, school districts, those type of things. An ownership map is in there as well. County Highway Department, these are available at the Highway Department. These are available at the Sheriff's Office, Auditor's Office, free of charge. If someone is looking for just a general county map, this is a good one to point them to as a resource. And there's no cost for those. Recreational trail maps, this is going to take you to the Land Department page. And there are some ski maps of each of the ones available there if you're looking for some recreational maps. We also did some work with an intern this summer cleaning up some of the trails within our interactive map. I don't know if any of you have tried to use it in the past. You turn on the trails and you kind of get multiple lines on top of lines and it's not really very easy to work with. That's been cleaned up now. So now we have a much more usable trails layer that you can turn on. We did our best to remove anything that appeared to be on private land. But as with everything in the map, it's always under development, improvement, and review. So please take everything that you see there with that in mind. So coming down to the bottom, okay, we're going to get to one of your questions on your list. I've got some links here to some map resources. Question number 2 and 3, you guys were looking for how do we find issues on a particular lake, flooding, Superfund cleanup sites, fishing restrictions. floodplains. None of those are really under county jurisdiction. But what I did put here is a few links to some resources to help you answer those questions. There is the DNR Lake Finder. There you can put in the name of the lake, and it will pull up the information the DNR has on that lake. It's a link to fishing regulations. What did you see here?
If you go to water levels,
The water levels.
that's where you can find your OHW, the ordinary high of the
Okay.
lake, and the reading, and the highest known is up there too.
So when we talk about setbacks to a structure, that's what we have to go by, is that ordinary high water mark. So once we figure out where that is at, then we can pull the 75 or 100 or 150 foot setback.
And then Superfund sites, those are managed by the EPA. But I did find a map here that will show you all of the Superfund sites that exist. And if you zoom in here to Minnesota, you'll see that in our area, there are 2 in Cass County. One is down by Gull Lake, and that's the Agate Lake Scrapyard. You can see their hazard ranking. If you open up the PDF, it'll give you a little bit of a description as to what the original contaminant was. Any more information on these sites, and you would have to contact the EPA for specifics. And then, let's see, go up, I'll show you the other one. So that's the one down there, and then up in Cass Lake, you have the St. Regis Paper Company with a hazard rating of 52.88. So there's some quick links to maybe try to help answer some of those questions that you have there. And then lastly, on this page, the FEMA floodplains. I linked to a DNR, Minnesota DNR website, because I thought it had a nice map. There are no mapped FEMA hazard areas in Cass County. So by FEMA definitions, they haven't determined any areas that are considered a hazard. Now, I did note on one of FEMA's websites in researching this, the question, am I in a floodplain? They answered it, yes. Everyone to some degree is in a floodplain. It just depends on what the water levels are. So there are areas in Cass that may be subject to high water levels and that type of thing, but the FEMA has not identified any, and they are the authoritative source. Now, if you are interested, maybe you're looking in Crow Wing or working around that area, here's a link to FEMA's flood hazard map on that. And again, if you zoom in, it's going to show you areas that they have mapped, and we'll just zoom in here. You'll see this looks very similar to our mobile mapping application. Here's Brainerd. As you zoom in, you're seeing the different plannels, the different areas that they have information on. Zoom in a little bit closer, and you're going to start to get some of these areas that they have defined. And again, the legend is going to be over here. So these blue areas are 1% annual chance, flood hazard, regulatory floodways are in the middle. This is a way that you can find information on areas that have been mapped, but again, Cass County does not have any. So let's see, let's go back to the next page. Okay, so any questions on any of that before I actually go into the interactive map? Okay, I'll go ahead and jump in here. Did you guys have any comments or anything like that? Did you?
Wow. You're taking notes, Scott. No.
Okay, so in the map, and you have to forgive, this screen's kind of narrow to match the projector up there. You guys all know all of the map tools are across the top here. You notice this is a newer tool. This is the pictometry, the 2017 imagery that was flown this spring. We are scheduled to fly again in 2020. So in 3 years, we'll have another imagery source available. So just moving across the top real quick here, you've got your navigation tools. You've got your plus and minuses over here on the side. You can zoom in and out. This is obviously zoom in, this is going to be zoom out. Whatever is highlighted in gray at the top is what is active. Zoom previous, zoom next, zoom extents. Okay? So on this side you have your legend. Real quick, I'll show you up at the top. In the view, you've got your toggles. So this will turn the legend off and on. This will turn your results off and on. If something were in there, it would display. So we'll go over here. You can also close them by clicking the X's in the upper corners there as well. Sometimes when I'm working with someone doing tech support, I advise closing the legend because when you get your results, your legend will cover up whatever happens to be down in this corner. So those can come in very handy, just being able to know that you can close them and get them back quickly. So when looking at the legend, you do have the option of having some control over this. This is your layers list, this is your transparency. Basically, if you wanted to make something more transparent, you could come in here. I've never really found a great practical use for it, so I don't use it very often, but it is there, that's what it's for. On the side, what you see here is I closed all of these groups. Each of these is what's referred to as a service. So each of these is kind of its own standalone data set. So underneath there, if you drill down in under anything that's got a plus sign, you're going to see what's underneath it. If you open up anything that's got the black triangle, you're going to see the legend. Now the imagery is not really that impressive. You get underneath here, this is where you're going to find your legends for everything that you're seeing in the map. Keep in mind that when you're looking at this, whatever layer you're underneath, this has to be checked. If this is not checked and you check this, nothing is going to draw unless the upper one is checked on too. And that's important to remember when you're down here working with into some of these that are not on by default. That's how you get them to turn on. So looking under your basic layers, I'll show you a couple real quick. Here is your wetlands. We'll turn those on. And actually I'm going to go in and turn off those recycle sites too. So here's your wetlands. Now notice they're grayed out. You have them on, but they're not displaying. This is a scale thing. If it's grayed out and it's not drawing, you have to go to a lower scale. And the reason for that is some of them have so much information in them that if you tried to draw them at a county scale, you'd be sitting there a very, very long time waiting for it to draw. So if something doesn't quite display, check that and watch for what scale you happen to be at. So here are your wetlands. Now I'm going to drop down this legend. I'm going to show you real quick. These pink ones down here, delineation, boundary, and wetland delineation. What we worked with environmental services on is taking any areas where we actually had a wetland delineation and incorporating that into the National Wetlands Inventory. So the National Wetlands Inventory is what you see predominantly here. Anything that's not pink. All of the blues, the greens, all of these up here to the top. These are digitized wetlands. That means they took a quad map or an imagery and they digitized the outside of it. It's an educated guess that there is a wetland at that location. A wetland delineation means that there was someone on the ground verifying the actual presence or absence of wetlands on that property. So all these areas where we see the pink, those are wetland delineations. Someone has ground truthed this, and we've incorporated into the map. And in these cases, we clip out the NWI. So whatever the NWI previously showed here, we've removed that. The hatching means that is the area that has been walked. The pink means that there is a wetland at that location. So those have been ground truthed in.
So it's my understanding that when you actually do a wetland delineation, that's only good for 5 years?
Kelly?
Previously, yes, it was. It all depends in-house now what we look at. If we've got a good wetland delineation report that was done in the past on it, and it was reviewed and found to be accurate, a lot of times we will not require a new delineation. It would behoove if someone's trying to sell the property or whatever over time the wetland boundary flags, which I always like to have people know where the boundary edges are. They will fall apart, disappear, whatever, so it would behoove them to have the boundaries reestablished.
But essentially, once it's on the website, it's not like it goes away after 5 years, it'll always.
Well, now here's the thing, these were only ones, I mean, we've got some of these wetland delineations that went back. If you actually have a shape file, which was able to be imported, we have delineation reports going back a long ways that were never digitized or don't have a shape file associated with them. They're not on here. So it's the ones that were basically done since probably 2005 forward would be, if we got a shape file for them, then they're on here.
So when the new one is done, how long does it take before it lands on the website?
When they sent, well, within the last year, Environmental Services made the decision that when a wetland delineation comes in, they need to provide us with the shape file along with it. They don't give approval of it until it has been reviewed and incorporated into the map to see whether it covers the appropriate area and actually met the criteria. So usually within a few weeks, I do not work on them as they come in. I kind of set them aside and then bring a number of them in at one point in time. So you may be talking 3 months at the most that you would see it. But again, this isn't going to be all-inclusive just because you don't see a wetland delineation there. If you have a property owner that's telling you a delineation was done, you want to look into it. Don't treat the map as authoritative. Keep it as representative. We're trying to represent the information. It's the best way to get it out to the public, but you know, there's always room for mistakes, and I was going to take you through a disclaimer. If you guys haven't read the disclaimer, please read the disclaimer. Take it very seriously. But we do our best to keep it updated, but I am always trying to improve it. One thing that I can point out here to look at, you'll notice that this wetland delineation does not appear to follow the parcel boundaries. Most of you all know the parcel boundaries do not necessarily represent their actual location on the ground. There's quite a bit of error in there. Some places are very spot on, but other places can be 10 feet off, 50 feet off. There are some areas where it is up to 300 to 500 feet off. These are not survey lines. These are not property lines. They should not be used to locate section corners, property corners, determine if a survey is needed even. These are representative for taxing purposes of the basic size and shape of the parcel. If the parcel is 100 feet by 100 feet, it's going to be 100 feet by 100 feet in the map. But its location in reality may not line up. So in these cases, the wetland delineations are the actual locations on the ground, regardless of whether they lined up with the parcel boundaries or not, because we want them to represent the imagery that they're overlaying. The imagery is correct. The parcel mapping is in error. So we're not going to align the imagery to the parcel map, and realigning the parcel map is a huge endeavor. We would have to reestablish section corners throughout the entire county or focus on specific areas. You can't just move one because you're tied to, everything is tied together. So it is something that we're looking at for a future endeavor. We realize the value in it, but it is a big endeavor and we do want to go about it the right way. So just keep that in mind. So one thing that I can show you in here, and I'll wait until I show you the pictometry tool. We'll keep going through the wetlands, but I'll show you the best way to work with the map when you have that type of situation. Yeah.
When we have, and we work with, I'm sure everybody in this room, works with several people that think that those boundary lines on the county site are the Bible.
Right.
And who would they call at the county to tell them exactly what you just told us?
Or read the disclaimer.
They can read the disclaimer.
Most of them can't read, I don't think.
Take your mobile app up on that, and it always comes up with the disclaimers.
Because they don't believe us, they
Right.
want to hear it from somebody else.
And they can, the best two resources at the county to talk to are about that are either myself, and they don't like hearing it from me either,
Yeah, okay.
or Paul Klinger, who is the real estate technician in the auditor's office. Paul Klinger is actually the one that maintains all of the parcel information. He's been doing it for 20 years, back when it was hand-drawn sketches. He knows what he's doing, he knows what he's talking about, and he'd be another great resource to just point somebody to if they have questions about
Okay,
that.
all right, thank you.
Any other quick questions before I jump back to the layers? Okay. All right, so also in here we do have the soils map. Okay, you can turn that on. Not real helpful, but the soil survey is out there. There is a link back on the maps page that you can get to, and that does give you the descriptions of those soils. Under municipal data, this is kind of a new within the last year. It started with the city of East Gull Lake asking if there was a way that they could get their zoning in the map so it would overlay. We have created that for them. It's actually a pretty quick process. Since then, the other ones that you see there have kind of come on board as well. So what this allows you to do is not only review Cass County's zoning in the map, but you can also, oops, hang on a second. You can also review these municipalities. And they also have, they asked to have their sanitary structures in there as well, as did the city of Walker, because they had it. So that's available to you there. Close that up. CRV sales. This is a visual representation of the property sales in the county within the last 3 years. So, and this was kind of at a request of a realtor. Probably about 6 to 8 months ago, just wondering if there was a way to be able to see it. And so this is the same thing that you would find, the same data that you'd find when you do the property sales history on it. And this is showing you any sales 2018, 2017, 2016, 2015. From there, you can choose and use your identify on the parcel, pick the property. Once you get the available report up, you can go to the property sales report. This is kind of jumping, and you can see what that property sold for. So there's that. And then also underneath here, you can see the parcel history. So you can see how far it goes back. This goes back to about 1990, 1994. Anything before that, you hit the scan documents. That's going to bring up what we refer to as the PIN card, which is the old method of recording the history in the auditor's office. And where did it go? There it is. And that was how they maintained it in the past. They had a card file. So that one goes all the way back there. So you can get to that. And if there is a split, like for instance here, this is where you'd be able to know what the previous parcel number was. And that becomes important if you're trying to track down a permit or a compliance inspection on a property that is split or combined, because you may want to search by that parcel number as well as the existing one. And you can do so, if you can't find that parcel number, it really doesn't exist, you can always go to these quick links. You can go to the permit search here, and you can punch that parcel number in there. And if there is one on a previous parcel number, it will come up in there for you. Back here. So that is that. Now we'll go back to this identify. We'll bring that up one more time. So also underneath here, you can check for compliance inspections on the property. Anything with a blue link is going to bring up the actual scanned image for you. And as you're noticing, you have to allow pop-ups for our site, or you're not going to get very far. So then you get the actual scanned document. Same is true for the permits. And this again is tied to the parcel number, so you're looking at that parcel number, but you have the ability to pull up the original permit. If it is a large permit, it's going to give you that message, but you can go ahead and click it and see if it'll come up. It was just telling you to be patient because it's a large document. So this is tied back to the permit number, and all of this is the same type of research that these guys do when they're looking at a property. So you have access to the same resources that they have. They're pretty good at going back and finding previous splits and combinations and other things like that, but the compliance inspections and the permits are all available to you. Obviously, this was a big one.
Don't open that
Was
one.
it gravel pit?
You don't want to open that one on your mobile app.
I would pick that one.
Oh, lock your phone down.
Okay.
Might be a good time to ask, is there anybody that has any questions of how this ties in the zoning part of it, or? Just like she said, this is when you guys call, or someone calls about a property, we take a lot of calls from your clients, and this is generally what we're doing at our desktop, as we go through all these types of things to get as much understanding of the property as we can get being on our desk, which is not the same as being on the property itself, obviously.
How close are you to being caught up on the septic compliances? Seems like
What do you
more
mean?
times you have to call because it's not on the site than it
There's
is.
a timeline that a certain number of years ago, they decided that, I think it was, what, 5-6 years ago? 5-6 years ago, they said, we're not going back any farther than that because it's a big database.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of input, and so they, let's go from this point forward, we'll take all those, and then slowly we're working our way backwards. So if you're looking for something that's older than 5 years, it's gonna be an expired compliance inspection anyways, but we still should have that data, and right now you have to, everyone asks anyway, so call up and find out if there's anything on record, and then we can go back and see. And a lot of times it's going back over all the splits and finding out, especially if it's an older one, if it's 1990 to 1980, it's pretty tough to look those up.
Right now, everything is open. It was restricted to about 10 years for a time, but this is going back all the way.
So you're hooked up now.
If there is a tie to the parcel number, it's going to display. If you can't find it, it's very possible that the parcel number may have changed due to a split or combination. And then that's the parcel number that you're going to want to search for. But all of the records are linked. And there are places where you can have a typo, you may not have a join, you may not be finding that active record that you're looking for, and it might require the office's investigation to kind of figure out where it went, because they can look for it in different manners than just the parcel number. But you are looking at all the data that is available. This is the entire database, provided it's finding a good link on that parcel number back to that document.
We currently have 13,000 permit applications, compliance inspections, a wide variety of stuff that actually has no parcel numbers on it. And we've been going back trying to get these originally pieced back together as well. So there's a huge database, and these are back from the 70s and 80s, et cetera. So it's gonna be a long road to hoe, but eventually we'll get all of those into that database associated with a parcel number,
So I noticed question number 8, septic systems. What do we look for in old systems? Is there anything you guys want to add as far as if you're looking at a permit, you're seeing that it's a 10-year-old system? What are some cues?
I'll bring that up. One thing about septic systems is we hear a lot of people that have misconceptions of what a compliance inspection is. One of the biggest things that landowners or property owners that are going to you and they're being informed that, when you sell your property, you're gonna need a compliance inspection on your septic system. There's some anxiety or stress, if you will, that, geez, they're gonna make me put in a new septic system. And the reality is, a compliance inspection doesn't say that system follows today's rules. What it says is it follows the rules that were in place at the time it was installed. So 1980, that's what we required in 1980. So the only thing that will fail that system that was put in 1980 is if it either does not have a solid waterproof tank that's leak-proof, or if the drain field does not meet the separation from the groundwater. And that's where we run into the biggest problem, is because prior to 1996, the groundwater was figured out to be, I'm on the hill, the lake's down there, I'm nowhere near the groundwater. Well, in this area, we have layered soil, so that water that falls down as rain gets caught up, slowed down, and will rise up as a perched water table. And that's what we're seeing in a lot of systems that were installed prior to 1996. Septic guys weren't required to know anything about soils. We went by the water level, the lake level, if you will. So that's one of the things when a property owner has to get a compliance inspection, they get all nervous when you tell them they need an inspection. And they say, oh, geez, it's not gonna pass, it's 20 years old. That's not necessarily true. We see a lot of systems that were put in the 70s that are still passing. Any questions on that? Yes?
So that's the difference between compliance and conforming?
No, we don't use the word conforming, it's pretty much compliance. Now, if you're talking about, is this system size big enough for this house? That's a whole different question, that's what we usually look at as conforming.
Okay.
So a property owner will say, well, I got it inspected, but you know, you've got a system that was installed in 1976. Back in those days, we used seepage beds a lot, or smaller chunks, because we didn't require as much capacity, because water flows weren't as much either. We didn't use water like we do today. So if they built the system for a 2-bedroom house in 1976, chances are it's not going to be as large as what you need for, now this place is a 3-bedroom with a guest cottage above the garage, and we're still operating on that small system.
So you could, so at that point, you're gonna get a non-compliant system? You're still gonna get a certificate?
You will
of
still get a
compliance?
certificate of compliance, and that's it, and that seems confusing to a lot of people, especially a first-time home buyer, when they go, well, I just had this inspected, and now the county's telling me I need to add to my septic system because of this guest house I have. And then, so that's the confusing part. Because when we size septic systems, we look at number of bedrooms. And so the number, you know, a lot of times back in the 70s and 80s, when you had a seasonal cabin, there was a reduction in amount of septic capacity for that seasonal cabin, which we don't recognize in sizing anymore. So it might not be sized correctly, but it still works and still considered compliant.
They
Yes.
should know, according to MLS rules, if the system is only sized for a 2-bedroom home, and you have 3 bedrooms in the home, and you're gonna post it on the MLS, you cannot post that as a 3-bedroom home. It has to be only listed on the MLS as a 2-bedroom home. You can't put in the agent notes that it is a 3-bedroom home, but the septic is only sized for a 2-bedroom.
Right, and so compliant, guys that are going out and doing these compliance inspections, you know, sometimes you have to ask them to check and see what it was installed as, what the sizing is. And the biggest thing is, you know, you talk about your rule on MLS, well, if you have a guest cottage in the garage that wasn't permitted as a guest cottage, we see a lot of those and we get involved in a lot of those issues, and we're like, we have no knowledge of a guest quarters up there, and therefore your septic system is not going to be sized correctly. Any other questions? One other thing, since I'm talking about septic systems, I might as well bring up now. The state of Minnesota MPCA runs the rules for septic systems. They're the ones that write up the rules, give them to the counties and say, here's the new rule, you have to accept this. And one rule that they have on the books now, it hasn't gone through the process of the state legislature accepting it, but it's gonna involve realtors really heavily, is that all septic systems will have to be pumped during compliance inspection. So if I'm, as an inspector, if I'm going out and I have to go check on a system, I have to line up in a pumper to go out there and pump that system before I go there. And so there's a time frame there, and you know how sales go, a lot of times we're closing on Monday, we need a compliance inspection right away. Well, you have to keep that in mind now, that inspection might take another week or 2 or 3.
Has that rule gone into effect now? Or is
Not
that-
yet, so there's time, if you don't like that rule, it might be a good time to contact your legislative folks. Yes, sir.
Yeah, the inspector that we've used for a number of years has always requested our pumping, and he lines it up if they don't have a pumping that was done within the past 12 months with a pumping.
Correct.
Is there a time frame in this new rule, as far as you know, that said if it was done within the last 12 months, that'll still be acceptable?
Yeah. So the new, pumpers are required to have records, and so there's a new sheet that they're gonna have to be required to give to the homeowner, and sometimes they might have to request that if it's been pumped within, I thought it was 2 years they're gonna give them on that.
I thought it was, well,
Maybe 3.
they
It
have-
might even be 3, because they have,
So you might have a compliance inspection done tomorrow, and it was pumped a year plus ago within 3. That pumping requirement could have been met then, based on that.
Right.
As long as they have a report.
but that inspector will have to contact the guy who did it, because there's some subtleties in the rule too, is who is allowed to fill out the paperwork.
Got it.
It's gotta be the guy with the license, not the guy that's driving the truck. And there's, it's a little more complex than that, but that's basically what it comes down to.
This inspector that we use also has told me that he's no longer doing winter inspections. Is that a state rule that they have come down with? No?
No,
Okay.
and that's the short answer. The long answer is if you're getting a compliance inspection done in the wintertime, that inspector's taking an awful lot of liability.
That's what I believe.
It's covering you guys, but he's taking a lot of liability. You can't physically go out and determine the depth of, in a lot of these older systems, you can't locate them. I've done them in the wintertime, it's really tough. Yes,
So is there a problem pumping that in the winter if there's gonna be nobody using it
I would say yes.
again? So like if
Absolutely.
you have a vacant cabin and you wanna have it done and you gotta have it pumped, if there's no usage in that for another 3-4 months, that could put that tank at risk,
Yes.
correct?
Absolutely. Especially if you have a water table issue or you have heavy soils, and we have a winter like this winter where that frost is going down and it's gonna go deeper, you're gonna have some problems. And that's what a lot of us, the local unit of governments in this particular area are fighting that rule. So, you know, and we go back and forth with them. But there's a big lobby, there's a big group of people that are stakeholders in this that pump tanks and also do inspections. So, I mean,
Well, it's not only winter, but October.
Yeah.
You pump in October,
Right.
you don't get a chance to warm up.
if it's a resort, I would say, you know, anything after July is,
Yeah.
you know,
Unless you-
you're not gonna float. Yes, ma'am.
How do you feel about outhouses?
Love
Tank or else they fail?
No, absolutely not. And that's a great question,
What's
too.
going on with outhouses?
them. You can have an outhouse as long as your soils have the capacity and the separation from the bottom of that pit. In other words, if you have a 3 feet deep pit and the water table is 3 feet below that, that thing's gonna pass. So on a high sandy application, yeah, and, you know, outhouses are great, I wouldn't live without one.
Do you need an inspection on that then?
Yes, you do.
Their septic system.
Okay.
So if they're going out on property and doing the compliance, and you know there's an outhouse, a septic guy, he's on a run. He's gonna come in, he's gonna look at what he's got. If there's not something on that drawing, tell him there's a privy there. Maybe it looks like a tool shed. I've seen some pretty outlandish privies. You might wanna tell him, check the privy out too, because there's a lot of sales get held up on that. Jeff?
Scott, the state's changing the rule is what you're saying regarding.
That's correct.
Okay, so bear with me. So the state's changing it, there's the state requiring, so like Howard and Cass have different rules regarding septic system. So is the state requiring that the system get tested, or only that if it is tested, then this is the way you have to do it?
The state's requesting that if you're doing a compliance inspection. Now the difference in the rules are when do we require compliance inspections? And in Hubbard County, you're not required to do a compliance inspection of point of sale.
Correct.
Cass County are.
Correct.
So at that time, you would need to have a pump and a pumper come out if it hadn't been done in a year or maybe 3, depending upon how they flesh out that rule. And then you want to get it done. So, you know, we always try to convince folks that, geez, you should get that compliance inspection right away if you know you're gonna list your house, but you know how that goes.
We could probably do more to convince people to do the inspections up front, but for us, a lot of times it's a timing, I mean, to work with the county
We
would be
understand.
helpful for the realtors to be able to work out a way that said, you know, we understand that you want it done within a year of the point of sale, right? It has to fall within that year, or is it actually at the point of sale it has to be tested prior to?
Yeah, you have to have a certificate of compliance prior to the closing. So from 3 years before that, so you have a 3-year window for the expiration date of the compliance inspection.
Right, but.
Well, let's say in the winter time, with the winter agreement,
Yep.
then that's a different deal, and so how do we work in winter agreements with escrows and permits?
I mean, if they don't have a certificate of compliance and you pick up the sale in frozen conditions, then, you know, then you're going to have an escrow packet. It's under 303, you need to get a written estimate. Well, let's say number one is, in order to convey it, you're going to need to have a written estimate on a new system and put escrow in it, and then get a compliance done. And if the compliance comes back, then the escrow is released. If it comes back failed, then you're going to need to put in that system within that year.
So
Well, that might be a smart move.
that becomes a real complex issue in the wintertime, you know, for sales. Yes, it can be.
And moreover, some people, and I'm not saying all, but some, they're counting on the sale itself, in a lot of instances, to actually pay for the system. Because the system can be expensive, so a lot of times people are more comfortable escrowing after the fact than they are prior to, or that's a reason why. The reason why you can delay in people testing the systems right out the gate is because once that system shows up as non-compliant, the clock starts to tick.
Correct.
So if you're listed at the wrong time, say closer towards fall, and you've got to pump the system, you've got to get it inspected, and then you may potentially not have a closing all the way through winter, all the way to the next selling season. So there may be some room here to work with the county for the Realtors Association, where maybe you guys can work with us saying, okay, if it's currently listed for sale, then you can go ahead and get a test on, and at the point of closing, or it's no longer listed for sale, that system has to be run in compliance. I'm just saying there might be some language that we could work with that would help us allow our people to get tested earlier.
Yeah, and I don't disagree, but
Lenders, the thing
Yeah.
Schultz had, if a lender is not going to finance a failed system, that most of the big money center banks will not touch.
That's a big point for us too.
yeah, I would even stretch my neck out and say that, you know, and just so most of you know, a lot of you know who I am, and I came from Hubbard County, and we didn't require it, and so it made real estate sales go a lot smoother. But for whatever reason in Cass County that it's been done that way, I guess that would be at a higher pay grade than myself, whether those rules should be changed, but yeah, we know the situation that happens because we see it on the other end.
Yeah.
You know, where all of a sudden somebody's up there trying to record deeds, and what I mean, it creates a lot of stress in our office too, so.
So Scott, is that something we can potentially work on if this rule comes down?
You talking to this Scott or that Scott?
Scott, you stole the cover.
Yes. He was pointing at you.
You're not sitting up front, but it's still.
Sorry, he was pointing at you.
I don't know.
Fair answer.
Okay,
So what's the penalty if somebody does, you know, you have somebody, they don't have $12,000 for an amount system, they get a septic compliance done, it doesn't pass.
do you know what needs done?
But they don't have the funds to literally do it within the year of that property. What's the penalty or recourse that the county puts onto that seller or that homeowner to make them get their system in compliance?
Well, it's a,
Non-compliant sale, basically.
yeah, it's a non-compliant sale.
Well, they haven't sold, they just haven't, it hasn't transferred yet. So for whatever, you know, the system's just non-compliant, your year has passed. This old lady doesn't have $12,000 for a new mountain system.
And, okay, so a year has transpired.
Yeah.
We've got a notice of non-compliance on a system,
Yep,
and it's up for sale, or?
it's still for sale, yeah. What's the county's recourse on that homeowner?
Well, she'll get a letter from the office, several letters from the office stating that this needs to be taken care of.
And if they don't do it,
Then it potentially can go out to the county attorney's office.
okay. So, I mean,
But
is
we don't want it to go that way.
that- Well, I know,
In
but
order to keep on a time frame here, because we have some individuals that need to leave at about 11:15, I'm going to ask that we reserve some of these questions toward the end, please. We'll come back to it, but I want to jump over to address some of the setbacks and the lake types. And just for the sake of time, because that'll probably spark a conversation too, I'm going to show you guys real quick the pictometry tool. And the reason I show you this, if you haven't already found it, it's up here. Make it gray. Wherever you choose on a property or choose on the map, it's going to bring up all the imagery that's available to you. Zoom out 1 for optimal scale, and then what you have the ability to do in there is to pan. You can switch to whichever view you prefer as you come around. Maybe you want a lake view of the house, or you can go straight down. The date is up here. This will list how many are available for the property. I'm not quite sure where that comes. But you can kind of pan around and pick an image. My suggestion for places where maybe the parceling and the imagery don't line up is to use this for your imagery shot, turn off and then when you're in the map, turn off the imagery so that you have a map of the property and you have an image of the property, and use them separately. If they don't make sense together, don't use them together. It just confuses people. And this way you can actually go in and you can pick the best shot that you want for your property. So that's my quick word of advice on the pictometry. And then moving down, before I jump into the setbacks, I want to point out that there are the MP&L lease lots. Any of you that work down in the southern part of the county, and maybe you're trying to find a lease lot, they are in there. You can search for them. The taxpayer information is in there. It is a custom search, and it is actually going in using this, changing the parcels to actually be the MP&L lease lot polys, and then entering your parcel number, your owner name, or your physical address that you know. And it will bring up the taxpayer information on those MP&L lease lots. And there is a how-to sheet on that tech support page. And if you want me to come back to this later and walk through it, I'll do that too.
Jess,
Yep.
tribal leases, we have no access to that.
Tribal leases, you have access to the driveways. If you're looking for a property that doesn't have a piece of land tied to it, you want to search for addresses by this secondary address, which is in essence your 911 address. All of the addresses are in here. So for instance, if I go up to Waboos Trail, so this is going to be your mobile homes, tribal leases, maybe secondary address on a property, maybe they have an address to a guest house. When you're searching by the physical address, it's looking for the primary address on the property. Tribal addresses and mobile homes, in some cases, are not tied to land underneath. And the tribal addresses also are not assessed by the county, so there's no assessment information, but you can find them this way. So what you're looking at when you do this is you're not looking at the parcel database, you're looking at the address database, but there's some information in here that will help you. It tells you if it's tribal or Leech Lake Housing Authority. Instead of a parcel number, you'll have a project unit number if it's a project unit. It'll tell you who the taxpayer is, if there is one. There is also what it says I name, let's just call that occupant name for the sake of being politically correct. And what that is this was acquired during initiation of rural addressing back in about 1998. It's going to be hit or miss. It has not been updated since then. The tribe has not given us new occupant information, but it is there, and sometimes it's correct and sometimes it's not. So that is in there for you to use as well, along with the date that the address was assigned and the road name. So if you can't find an address in that physical address search, try the secondary address. And if you notice, what I did was I just put in Waboos. I didn't put in Waboos Trail. I didn't put in the house number. It's a contained search. So it's going to bring up anything that has that Waboos in there. Keep in mind, you got to get the abbreviation right. Same thing with an address. If you're looking, somebody's giving you a house number, 16147. You can't find it with the road name. Put in the house number, see what you come up with. Sometimes with these searches, less is more. So just keep that in mind when you're working with them. There is another cheat sheet on that tech support page. But that is a great that is a great question with that. Along that same line, I handle the 911 addressing. Missing signs can be purchased from the highway department. It's on their website, it's $35. If you're splitting a property, watch to see which parcel the address is going to. Sometimes we get people that say, well, we're going to sell this house and we want to build over here, but we want to take our address with. Maybe, but maybe not. It depends on if they're putting in a new driveway, whether it lines up. And there's a lot of them out there where they sell their property off, they split it, and they give the same address to both properties because they had two on there. That causes problems in 911, and property owners are not happy after the fact when they're told they have to change their address. It's much easier to do it during the course of a title change, and it's much easier if someone hasn't taken care of, maybe they moved their driveway and they didn't get their address changed correctly. It's much easier for the new property owner to put that back on the original property owner before the sale to say, you need to bring this into conformance with 911 addressing. You need to get a blue sign out there. Please take care of that and make it part of your negotiations with your purchase agreement. I think from a lot of the property owners that I talked to after the fact, they would really appreciate if that had been addressed beforehand and caught. So that's my little niche of the world there. But if they do have questions, they can call me too. Okay, so we're going to hit on the addresses, go back to the legend. Let's look at some of these environmental layers. One quick comment first, scan surveys. These are available. I'll demonstrate that after we go through the setbacks when we have time, but you can get to those, and there is a cheat sheet for that on that tech support page as well. So those are not going to be plats, those are going to be surveys that have been taken in that area. Okay, so environmental layers, we're going to zoom in, find an area here. Okay. Conservation easements. These are going to be areas where easements have been established. Kelly, any comments on what a conservation easement is? Because there are restrictions on development in those areas.
Yeah. Basically, a conservation easement such as a cub or a rim or whatever it may be, I mean, if it's an actual conservation easement, when the landowner decides to enter into an easement agreement, there is a map that's attached to the easement documents that is showing an area that is outside of the easement area where development and houses and whatever else can take place. Generally, it's just a building envelope, maybe 1 or 2 acres, for example, and everything else outside of that, there is absolutely no development at all.
So just making you aware that that is in there.
Yep.
And then we'll turn that off. So the question was asked about setbacks. How do we know what type of a lake it is? What are the setbacks for them? Underneath this environmental layer, we have those indicated. The river setbacks have been recently added, so they are still kind of under review. But this is, in essence, a reflection of what the ordinances and the land use setbacks are. If it is a natural environmental, 150, recreational development, 100, general development, 75. And if you zoom in to the lake in these areas, you'll see that after the lake name, you will get the type and the DNR underneath. So that is how you can find out what it is. And then the buffer is established here. Now, this is what they were saying. This is representative of a 100-foot setback. That does not mean that this is where the line is. That is 100 feet from this line. In this particular case, you can see the high water mark is here. So it is 100 feet from the high water mark, not necessarily where we have it in the map. But it will tell you what the setback is, but it does have to be established on the ground, not what you see on the map. Does that make sense? Okay. River setbacks, same thing. You'll see the same thing. There's a line that's representing the river. The setback is going to show you what it is, but it's from the, I don't know, what did you guys say? The top of the bank, not where the line is on the map. So it's in here to give you an indication of what the setback is there so that it can be established on the ground.
Anybody have any questions on setback and how it's determined? And number one question we get asked. Yes.
Just real brief, I know we've only got a couple minutes, but Minnesota buffer law. I understand that this pertains to agriculture. What do you folks see, anything on the radar screen? Because it seems to be a real, it's a real sausage making ordeal right now.
Lakes are already buffered. Anything on lakeshore is considered to be buffered as part of the
Perennial vegetation,
you know,
whether it be Kentucky bluegrass or oak trees.
Sand blankets, what about sand blankets?
Well, sand blankets, that's part of a recreational area that's permitted. We're talking, that has no bearing on the buffer law.
So you don't see any interpretations that would impact GDRD, lakes, or, okay.
I do know, because their backing would have failed if that would have, they would have went back on that.
theoretically it's all been taken care of by the shoreline ordinances.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, one more quick topic as far as natural environmental lakes, what are protected, what are not. Just because you do not see a buffer on it in the map does not mean that it cannot come under protection. Again, it's that whole idea of errors and omissions and things can be reviewed. For instance, right here, this is a public piece of property, but you see right here you've got one unnamed open water body. Over here, you have one that has not been identified and represented in the map. General rule of thumb that I've been told from the Environmental Services Office is any open water over 10 acres or even any open water in general, ask. And if it is going to be protected, that one right, it's probably going to be a natural environmental, which means it's going to be a 150-foot setback. So does that help when you're looking at the map? The question was on there, the difference between a pond and a lake too. The word pond that you were seeing was coming from the real estate technician. If it was written on a survey, he was recreating surveys and writing that and adding that text into the map to represent the survey. It had no authority, it had no general overlying meaning. It was just kind of text that was transferred off, and it was the surveyor's interpretation. It had no basis. So you will not see that word in there any longer. We just removed that layer that he was using that so that it's not visible to the public anymore, because admittedly it's a little bit confusing. We're at our 11:15, so.
Quick question,
Yeah.
is your mobile app on the website somewhere, or how do we get that?
Yep, the mobile app, and if you need to go, you're free to leave. We'll keep talking, answering questions, but just.
Thank you so much.